Hello and welcome to the Brand Storytelling live streams for September 16th, 2020. I'm Drew Parkhill. Thanks for being with us. These live streams air every Wednesday, and our mission is to deliver the most timely and relevant information for our community of brands and their storytelling partners. These shows are designed for you, so please let us know how we can best serve the community by suggesting future topics and guests that would help you now as well as into the future. You can drop me a line. I'm Drew at BrandStorytelling.tv. Really excited for this panel today and a private screening of the Rugby Boys of Memphis. I'd like to welcome Ty Braswell back as our host and moderator of this discussion. Ty, take it away.
All right, thanks, Drew. Appreciate it very much. All right, I'd like to bring the panel on. If you could jump in now, our mighty panelists here. All right. So I'm going to ask all our panelists to introduce themselves and talk of what they do and the organization that they represent. And with that, Allie, could you start it off and introduce yourself, please?
I'm Allie Polly. I'm the head of content development at PepsiCo, and we produced this film alongside the rest of the people we're going to meet today.
All right, Shane, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Shane Young, co-founder and executive director for Memphis Inner City Rugby, a nonprofit in Memphis, Tennessee, featured in the film you'll see shortly.
And now Calvin.
All right, hello everyone. I'm essentially a product of Coach Young's organization that he brought to us in 2012. So I'm excited to be here. Yeah.
Excellent. We're glad you're here. Allie, could you tell us just a little bit about PepsiCo, which division that you connected with internally, and then we'll go into more deeper detail after we show the film, but just to tee up exactly what section of the world of PepsiCo.
Sure. So we sit within the organization and we work across all the brands. And the mission of the studio, of which I'm a part of, is to help brands tell their stories differently or help to bring their brand purpose to life. Through long form content. In this case, it was a short doc, but in the world of advertising, most marketers would consider this very long form, considering they're used to 60 seconds. So we worked with the brand. We went to several directors and got pitches of stories that were compelling, and greenlit this one hands down. And then we go on board as a part of the project as producers once we greenlight the project.
Excellent. Shane, tell us just a little bit, to put it in context, of the Memphis Inner City Rugby organization.
Well, I just grew up playing rugby and came to Memphis through Teach for America in 2012 as a recent college graduate. Teamed up with my co-founder, Devin O'Brien, who also played rugby growing up, and we just wanted to coach rugby in the schools we were teaching in. And as educators locally, we found out how many voids there were for young men and women in the schools we were teaching in, and how this special sport could maybe play a role in their lives that transcended the sport itself. And that's a really dynamic, kind of confusing thing to form into a nonprofit. But thanks to great student athletes like Calvin, who have an incredible passion for the game and leadership, and storytellers like Allie Polly and David Darg, we're able to get the message out there. And today our organization's only almost 10 years old, serving hundreds of student athletes, both boys and girls. And we're incredibly grateful for this film, for playing such a huge role in the lifeblood of what is an organization that means a lot to a lot of young people.
Calvin, first day there, 40 some guys think they're going to a football tryout, right? Who was the one that told you it's not football, but it's rugby? What was it for? Who had the burden of that?
That was a while ago, so I can't specifically remember one person telling me that it was rugby, but we got there and saw a ball this big and was like, it's definitely not football. Like, yeah, I mean, we continued to play and we enjoyed it. I think we learned pretty fast that it was not football, but we did know that the same concept of football, like tackling and running, and that these big guys who had never had the opportunity to run the ball. Like everyone was excited. I mean, it was something new, and it was a contact sport that our school offered. So we all stuck around.
All right. Well, I want to hear the side of the story from Coach Shane. Tell us, Shane, how did you guys sit in a room and go, let's not tell them it's rugby? What all happened? That's got to be a great story.
Well, really just following the guidance and the sage wisdom of Dr. Steve Hunter, the school principal at the time, because, we're just a fast talking Northeasterner from New Jersey, showing up in the South, to come be a teacher. And, I'm like, yeah, like we're going to come start rugby. And Dr. Hunter was trusting and kind enough and graceful enough to let us in the door, which was what we needed. But he was like, pump the brakes on this rugby because you might not get any interest. Kind of trust me and let me do this bait and switch so we can actually get you a roster, right? So it was just following the lead of really our first ever stakeholder and partner, which was right there at Calvin School with Dr. Hunter.
So
Shane, wasn't it also, Shane, that you had limited funds, and so having just a rugby ball was far easier than getting helmets and padding and all the gear that you would need for football?
Right.
That's right. So it worked really well with the school because they, their kids kind of wanted football. There was always this buzz about football, but so as soon as Dr. Hunter made the splash announcement about football, although it was a bait and switch, it was like, all right, finally. But then told me it was rugby, and it sort of supplanted the need for football as this contact sport that was, maybe a tenth of the cost, especially because we were trying to pay for it from the outside anyway. So, yeah.
So just that moment when who said, look, it's not football, it's rugby. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. So take us right to there. Calvin set it up for us. Alec explained a very important point about the financial investment and how that was going to work for you. But you basically, I'm going to be careful with my wording, you deceived 40 young men about what they thought they were coming to. And what happened? How did it not that, there was a revolt on your hand?
Sorry, that's for me, right, Ty?
Yeah, right, Shane, Coach Shane.
It was hilarious because kids in Memphis have so much character and they had so much to say. So you just hear a lot of, oh man, like what's this, And so we had to get really quickly through the logistics and right to the highlight video. We brought a pretty hard hitting tackle rugby video as some highlights to show the young men, this is what we're talking about. And I think, Calvin can correct me if I'm wrong, but once they started seeing the physicality of rugby, the ball moving, some guys making some awesome moves and scoring, it was like, okay, we can get behind this. And luckily, every school's got their cool kids, right? The ones who people want to follow, people want to be like. Luckily, Calvin was one of them. A couple other young men were, really, really open to the adventure and enthusiastic enough about it where, of course, their classmates were going to follow their lead. So it was really great.
All right. The dynamic between you and Calvin is very important, between coach and player. That was the first time you met Calvin, was at the tryouts, right?
At that interest meeting. Yep.
Right. Did you know he was going to be a factor in this program when you first met him?
I think I remember kind of, yeah, because I think he was one of those guys like kind of having something to say about the bait and switch and, what is this? And, cracking some jokes. I just remember him sticking out in my head, and being definitely easy to remember once we got to that first practice.
Calvin
is a star. Remember it here, people. This is a meteoric rise on its way.
Calvin, what did you think of the coach who had deceived you out and out? Basically? I mean, why didn't you walk out? What kept you there? Because that decision is the reason why we are all here and many others. Because of that decision, you didn't walk out. What was happening in that room?
Well, the room wasn't, it was 40 kids in there, and they had a team. Like Coach Young did great by having a surrounding team with him. So, like, we got to see a few different personalities of these types of coaches. I mean, I think we all just were attracted by I don't know, the different amount of guys that they had. It was being a new sport, but I never directly was involved with one coach. Like, I was the bad kid that had to go see every coach. Like, Coach Young was like, look, go see Coach Kyle, and Coach Kyle was like this army guy, and he was so strong that I broke him down in practice, and so I was having to go see everybody, and I built a relationship with them all. But yeah, me and Coach Young got super close when the guys, as the organization grew and these other people kind of grew away from it, and we just kind of stuck together. Yeah.
What was that moment when you woke up one morning and you went, this is something that's going to be a part of my life? This rugby thing is not just something I'm going to get through and check a box. This rugby thing is a great fit for me. When did you have that moment? I'm guessing that you did.
Yeah, I can honestly remember it was a trip. I don't think it was a moment. Well, our first game was pretty cool. We played a team called Kingsbury, but I think maybe 2 weeks after that, it was real cold, and we took a road trip with Kingsbury, and it was just a merge of two teams, and I was an attention seeker then. I really liked attention. I really liked cracking jokes and making fun of people and stuff. And so I went on a road trip with all these guys, and I had the time of my life. It was my first time ever going to Nashville with a group of guys, and we got there, we played, we won, we played against each other. But it was just such a great time. And I remember me leaving that tournament, going home, and us dropping the other guys off. I was drained because, I had, there was no more rugby and there was no more being with the guys. And that, you know what, I'm going to do whatever I can in my power to stay amongst rugby and stay around these other guys. Like I said, we had so many people from so many different demographics. I was raised in the hood, but I was kept up pretty well as to not be able to, see things that the other guys saw, but I got to get their perspectives. I got to hang with them, get their language. And man, it was just a joy. Just me knowing that rugby was not even just, a physical thing. It's more of a social thing. It kept me around more than anything because I was a social guy. I feel like I was the person for that sport. So, yeah.
Allie, you have produced a tremendous amount of content in your career.
Yes.
And this one seems it is gone to a different level and a connection with the people that made this happen and why they made it happen, and this whole program, how it's grown and has had a huge impact on Memphis. When you first heard the story, just bring us to that time when you first heard that story.
Sure.
and you made the commitment, and then how that led to your first meeting with the director, David, who would be great if he could join us, but he's on an international travel trip, but we're hoping that when he changes planes, he may just pop in. But in the meantime, Al, if you could just set that up of how it all began, but more important for you, of all the different programs that you do, that you knew that this was going to be something special, and then how you met David, that day you met David.
Sure. So this was a dream come true. Kenny Mitchell was the head of Gatorade Consumer Engagement, and he was a member of our team. Abby Jadon, Jeff Miller, Robert Candle was with me, Lou Arbiter. We greenlit this project, presented to us by David Darg. I remember the phone call when David pitched it to me over the phone. I never even met him. I mean, I had seen Body Team 12, which he did, was a short doc that was Oscar nominated. And David's a very special human being. I mean, he's a humanitarian and a journalist and a documentary filmmaker. And I mean, I studied documentary filmmaking with Albert Maisels at NYU. I've never seen a filmmaker like David Darg. He's invisible. He's a big guy. He puts the camera on the palm of his hand, and he puts the hand in the center of the guys playing. I mean, he's a beautiful soul who just moves very kind of elegantly through intimacy. And so he pitched us a story. We knew what we wanted. We wanted a story that would really illuminate how sports can change young people's lives. And Gatorade's positioning is called Win From Within. And they wanted a story about grit, about, overcoming adversity. And their brand purpose is really to bring athletes along early in their career, and as they go pro, like Serena Williams, I mean, they have a long connection to professional athletes. So we greenlit the story based on a phone call and a pitch. David had already started shooting because I think they started playing really, really quickly with the season and the matches. This, by the way, was year 4 of Memphis inner city rugby. And the moment in time that David captured in his treatment, which again, when you shoot a doc, you don't necessarily know what you're going to get, but it was, will these kids get scholarships to college based on rugby and how rugby changed their lives? And that was the question, and that was the moment that this film captured. So the trailer and the poster designed by this brilliant filmmaker, Jared Buno, the line on the poster is, it took 4 years to change the students' lives. I don't know if we have the poster, we should put it up. But the goal of the brand was to create content that could compete in film festivals and get distribution without being branded. So we shot this film, we were on set, we were in the edit. The branding, there is no branding. We made up a production company called Win From Within Productions. We entered into film festivals where we competed against short docs, having nothing to do with brands. We were the producer. We premiered at Tribeca, which is when I think we all met for the first time, you guys, right? Shane and Calvin. And we had a party afterwards at Pepsi's restaurant. We had a panel afterwards at Tribeca. David had many films premiered there. He was a star there. And the film went on to do very, very well. I think we were at 17 festivals. We got picked up by Amazon. It was on United Airlines in flight. ESPN ran it. SportsCenter ran it. We did cut downs for broadcast. And we're still in touch. So I love what I do, and I love a lot of my projects, but this one is very special because when I wrapped my arms around Calvin and Shane and David, I knew that these were people who were in this business for the right reason, which is to use content to shine a light on stories that need to be told and to change people's lives. And yes, it was rugby, but it could have been any sport. The rugbiness of this is really fascinating, but it's the people and what they chose to be invested in emotionally that spoke to us. So we're actually making a scripted long form feature about this story. It's still going on. I said to Calvin, he's not getting rid of me. So we're in this for the long haul. We've Shane's laughing. We're buds. I mean, this is the best of it right here.
That's right.
Allie, internally, when you bring different projects to different one of the brands, it's in the PepsiCo portfolio. I mean, Gatorade is so historically iconic in what they mean and are authentic. And, they play for keeps when they create any sort of content. Did you have any hesitation when you heard about this? I mean, really, rugby in the South, I grew up in the South, but no hesitation at all.
No, but I'll tell you something. Gatorade has guardrails, and rugby is not a Gatorade sport at the time. They'd since signed on with the All Blacks, and we introduced everybody together. Calvin met the All Blacks in Chicago. It was incredible. But, rugby has traditional sports. Traditionally, they're team sports in the summer. They're not solo sports. This clearly matches that criteria, but it wasn't on their radar at the time. And rugby is growing very quickly and continues to grow, right? So we almost didn't really even know what we were onto at the time. We had no hesitation. This team, David gave us a tremendous sense of confidence. The people at the studio, Jill Kinney, Alex Henry, I mean, everybody was just, it was such a pleasure. And I'll tell you, on behalf of the brand let the post-production process play out. A lot of times the brands have a media buy or they have a promotional plan that goes with this. And so it can hurt the timeline. They don't mean to, of course, but filmmaking is a fragile thing. It takes time. And even though this film is short, and we'll send the link around afterwards. I'm sorry you guys can't see it. It's also on Amazon. This film, I think, found itself in the edit, and David should really speak to this, but if I were to say what's the best practice for a brand, it's to get behind a great story, get out of the way, and give the film time to complete itself. And we had the luxury of time. I hold this project up very often in the organization as what happens if you let people do what they do and give them enough time to do it.
So on that thought of giving people do what they do, Coach Shane, I can only imagine having a film crew when you're trying to coach a team as sort of having its own pros and cons. In fact, there's some coaches that would say, you're not going to bring a camera in my locker room and light. I think you had sort of the different approach. When you heard there was an opportunity and the what it would mean for PepsiCo to be involved and trusting a stranger, David, the director, to come in, how did you get quickly on board with this to have this project evolve?
Well, at first it was strangers contacting us, and we simply were not in a position to, say no or shy away. We owed it to our kids, our communities, to bring people in who wanted to tell their story. Because number one, we were dry bones of resources. So we felt, man, anyone who can come in and help us tell the story or bring resources, well, we need to get with them. Because even though we were 4 years into MICR, I was still a full-time teacher. Nobody in the organization was being paid to do anything. It was all volunteer-based. We're borrowing, begging, stealing for anything and everything we could get to expand opportunities for our students. So taking a chance at first, but then, meeting David, like Ali described, a beautiful soul, so accurate to describe David. And, Kelly Candle and, Jared and Allie herself and everyone who came on and invested in this just had such a genuine desire to make it authentic. And here in Memphis, we have a protective nature over our students and student athletes and over the city itself, right? Because it is a place with such character and such magic that, we want the story told the right way, and we're scared of exploitation in Memphis. This is a city in the South that's been through a lot. And our kids have been through a lot, and our families, people of color here, have been through so much. And so there is this natural fear, I think, of external entities and the possibility of exploitation and telling the story maybe, but not capturing the value. And yet we didn't have any of those fears when we met these storytellers. And that to me is their talent and communication skills combined with their heart for doing the right thing and telling a story with genuine authenticity towards making a good story, good content, but also making a difference.
Walk us through what has happened since this film has found its audience, and specifically bring us to 2020 and what we've all been challenged with COVID and all the different things that have been going on. But talk to us how it did not stop expanding and amplifying what you were doing. In fact, if I'm fair to say, it exceeded everyone's expectations that participated in this and how it amplified beyond what the goals that you had set. Talk to us a little bit about that, Coach Shane.
Ty, it's impossible to even quantify or pin down, right? Because the meaning of this film to us as an organization, our kids is so multi-dimensional. I thought you might ask a question like that. And I was thinking, about all the ways our organization has benefited and the relationships formed. But then Ali mentioned, we got to go to Chicago and have a private screening of the film with the All Blacks. I forgot. I wasn't even thinking about that, and Calvin wasn't even the only one who met him. We got to bring students up to meet their heroes, the All Blacks, and sit there through Chicago that weekend. By the way, it was the Chicago Cubs, World Series parade that weekend. So it was the craziest time, but what an amazing experience. So things like that, we've gotten to just meet so many people. Fundraising is my job, right? I get to serve as executive director for Memphis Inner City Rugby. So I'm going to tell anyone our story, but this is rugby in America. It's this one-off sport. A lot of people think it's lacrosse. And sometimes people ask if it's that thing where you're on a horse and you're hitting a ball. And I'm like, no. So there's such, especially in the southern United States, this confusion about what rugby is. So what a fundraising challenge when there's a foundational misunderstanding about what you do and how you do it. And then on top of that, we're trying to convince people that this is education, this is social impact, this is opportunity, and it is. And that's what our organization is really all about. Rugby falls on the bottom of our totem pole in terms of what we prioritize and how we activate programming. But this film packages it for us through the eyes of Calvin Gentry. And his story is important because it's reflective of the experience a lot of our student athletes have. But what it's meant to, from 2016 to 2020, is impact and infrastructure and how those fundraising opportunities have tied back in. You know, I just came back home from practice right down the street at Vance Middle School. We finally have our own field and space that we leased from the school district, and a whole rugby practice with social distancing guidelines was being executed by 5 of Calvin's former teammates. You know, this isn't a project run by us teachers anymore, you know, or these, you know, high grade professionals who came in from out of town to go run a program. No, this is the students who took a risk, joined MICR, played the sport, learned leadership, gained skills. Now they're going to school, working and serving the organization that they helped build. And that's the most powerful thing. And that kind of infrastructure and impact loop probably wouldn't be possible without the film and the power that gave our organization to tell the story. And now David, the director, and Allie, who helped make it happen from the corporate end, serve on our board. So it's like a family environment born 4 years ago, and we're just so grateful for that.
I've got one question as a follow-up to that, and then Calvin, get ready because I've got some questions for you. So, Coach Shane, is rugby only for young male athletes? And what evolved in Memphis? I'm setting you up for the question, which I'm hoping that I know that you're gonna jump right in and explain. But is it just for young men? Is that what evolved into Memphis, or did something else happen?
Well, isn't it interesting? The film's called The Rugby Boys of Memphis, and back then we had, you know, barely any girls playing, and the young women in Memphis saw this all take place, and they kept saying, you know, when can we play? We're tired of seeing our boyfriends play or just our classmates play. We can do that. We want to do that. It looks fun. So they self-advocated, fought for participation. MICR, of course, could not say no, did not want to say no. And now 45% of our student athletes are girls, and more than half of our coaches are women. And so we've had a girls team win the state championship in Tennessee 3 out of the last 4 years. And our girls have gotten scholarships to Dartmouth on a rugby scholarship. We've had 2 girls go to Lindenwood, the #1 women's program in the country. We have 4 United States high school All-Americans that have come through MICR, and many more incredible stories that just transcend the rugby field that have come from our young women. And so I'm incredibly thankful that we are more diverse than just boys today.
And let me just say they've also expanded beyond rugby. They're giving career counseling. They're giving professional development. They're teaching these kids yoga. They're talking about nutrition. I mean, it's becoming like a lifeline of all these tentacles to help these kids' lives, right, Shane? I mean, that's what blew me away.
That's right. That's what we mean by rugby's the bottom of the totem pole, right? Travel opportunities. Our kids have been to 18 different states, 4 different countries. We do nutrition. We do travel, transportation assistance locally just to get to practice, things like that. And then our academic support is huge, both for our students and alumni in college.
All right, I'm going to ask Calvin a few questions, and then Allie, we've got a couple of questions that people have put on the chat channel that I'm going to direct to you, but next I'm going to talk to Calvin. So Calvin, this changed your life, right?
Yep.
And you looked around, you saw some other people whose lives were changed.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we get a little bit heavy here, and the film touches upon that. So I want to continue upon that theme. But Calvin, what would have happened to you if this rugby program would have never been brought to Memphis?
I mean, it's cliche to say that, you know, a young black man growing up where I grew up from will only end up in jail or prison. But honestly, those are my other two options. I think I didn't even know rugby was such a distraction for me, like that I really didn't get to see what I was supposed to see or get to do any of the things that the people around me were doing. But now that I'm older and I saw how I grew up, rugby put me in a position to where my friends didn't even want me to get in trouble. My friends were like, "Nah, bro, like you gonna be big one day. Like we don't want you going with us. We don't want you doing all of this." So I can't even, you know what I'm saying? Me being this age, I can't even imagine where I would have went if I hadn't met the game of rugby. Like it kept me so blind to some things that I never ever got to see, or got to participate in. So I can't say for sure where I'd be. I know I've always been influential. I've always been that guy. But you know, influence can take you one or two ways. Like you can use that for positivity. I can use that rugby platform to go off to college and do the great things that I've done so far. Or I could have been a big rugby player, used that platform, and just gave up on the sport and turned it into negativity. Or before even meeting that, who knows? Who knows, man? I'm telling you, like I don't even know. And that's I think that's a good thing that I don't even know where I would be if I hadn't met the game of rugby.
Well, one thing for sure was you went to college.
Yep.
You got a college scholarship for this. Tell us just a little bit about that.
Well, you know, and like I say, I was so invested in rugby that I knew I was going to go to college. Before meeting rugby, like college was never even on my mind. Usually college was on none of the people, like I say, like me, his mind. Like we knew we were going to get a job at some point. We knew we were going to have to start working at some point. But rugby offered me basically a job, you know what I'm saying, guaranteeing that, like, look, with your talent, with your influence, you can go and be a great player on any team. And so I started working hard towards it. I started, you know, networking. Coach Young started sending me out the states to meet all these other people around the world. I think I can go to maybe 35 out of the 50 states and have someone be able to host me because I've met that many people through the sport of rugby. And so it was inevitable. Like I was going to get the opportunity to play for some college team. I had played for under all of these different college university coaches, and they wanted me to be a part of them. After a while, my senior year came, like, man, like I had people reaching out to me. I thought, you know, by the time college it came, my advisor was speaking to me like, Calvin, what you gonna do? Blah, blah, what you gonna do? Second semester rolled around and yo, I'm filled with mail. Like so many schools want me to be a part of their organization. So I was offered the opportunity to go to schools all around. Like I think if my grades would have been better, I would have had the opportunity to go to Cal. Even they wanted to work a deal out and see if there was a way they could get me there. But because of proximity and because of, you know, my attraction and my magnetism towards Memphis, I didn't want to go far. I knew I didn't want to go far. I think my number one choice was to always go to Life. But the year before I graduated, Donovan Norfleet, another product of MICR rugby, went to Life University before I did. And the program was great, and he was learning so well, and he was on CRCs. And so that was my number one choice. And so after he went there, I was like, you know, let me just kind of sit down and think about this. Like, you know, I want MICR to touch everything. Like, you know, I want MICR. I don't want us to just go be in Life and Life to get all of that love and all of what, you know, that effect that Memphis has on rugby or can have on rugby. Let me take my talent somewhere else. So, you know, I had a girlfriend at the time. She was an influence. There were a lot of reasons why I chose Arkansas State. I ended up going to Arkansas State. It wasn't the biggest scholarship. It was a good scholarship, and it was enough to take care of me and have me close to my grandma, my cousins, my family, and to still be able to come home and influence others and them be able to come watch my games. So ultimately, I think I made a great choice when I ended up going to Arkansas State. And that's where it took me, you know, and at Arkansas State, you know, Arkansas State is such a great school, especially for rugby international-wise. Like I say, not only can I go to 35 out of the 50 states in the U.S. and live, I can go to England. I can go to, you know, Africa. I can go anywhere around the world, basically, and have someone host me and be like, can show me around. And that's just a special, that's just how special rugby is. I mean, it's taking me to college. It's giving me the opportunity to network not only in the U.S., but outside the U.S. It's giving me the opportunity to show what I've been through and show all the things that it's given me to other kids and make them be like, look, rugby's the way, man. Rugby's the way. And even like outside of rugby, I'm now in a position to mentor. I've seen things kids haven't seen. You know, my horizon is so broad that I can, you know, I can open up other kids' minds. And so rugby is giving me a career options, giving me, you know, jobs, offer me the position to go to college. I can vent and rant all day about what rugby has done for me.
Let me ask you.
That's just a small portion of it. Yeah.
Let me ask
Yeah.
a very specific question. It's an
Yeah.
incredible story of how it impacted your life.
Mhm.
Were you the only one that really received this level, or did others of your peers in rugby also go to college and also get a scholarship?
I will say there were numerous people who had the position to you know, do what I did. I think because of my physical ability, it took me a lot further than others. But influence-wise, college opportunities-wise, so many other kids, you know, got these opportunities to do these things, and some of them still finished out. Like we got, man, like you know, some of these kids got the opportunity to go to college and play rugby, and was like, you know, I appreciate rugby for taking me to college, but you know, I think I could be useful elsewhere. Like we have people who want to be lawyers, who start nonprofits, start businesses, who have not coming back to mentor. We have valedictorians, salutatorians, and those are the people that I wish, you know, shined a little more light on. Like I'm the physical guy, and like, you know, I was the class clown that they all expected to, I guess, do something well. But Memphis NC Rugby has provided so many opportunities for so many kids, even the kids who didn't go to college. Like I said this last time on our last call, like we have kids who here who we still support. Like I think people give up on people when they say they don't go to college. Like MICR is like, nah, come coach. Like we still appreciate your influence. Like we'll hook you up with a job. Everybody lost jobs during COVID. They were still able to get jobs. I think, man, I don't want to sell it short, but MICR has provided everybody the opportunity to influence, go to college, and do things. And people have done great things. So no, I'm not the only one at all. Not even close.
Ali, a couple of questions from our audience. You've given us a very good insight on how this was not your typical content production assignment and how it grew so incredibly and is still the gift that keeps on giving. And in many respects, there's even more potential as you get to know this project and go beyond the film. It's really extraordinary.
Yep.
So one of the questions is after the pitch, how hands-on was PepsiCo in the production process and Gatorade? I think we had a little idea of that, but one of our audience has asked that question if you go a little deeper and specific about what happened once the green light happened and the production process started.
We were hands-on, but we were helpful, right? I mean, David had his own producer and his own editors, but we became a part of their team. That's how I think about it. So, and we have the sensitivity to want to help them be the best at what they do. So the brand was also very, very special. I mean, that most of the executives at PepsiCo are extraordinary. They want to make great work. They want to connect with their consumer. They don't want to get in the way. Why would they? Why? What's the point, right? So we were involved. We were on the set. We were in the edit. We were there. I mean, we weren't there. We really, I said we took our cue from David. This was, I mean, as the director, this was David's film. And David took his role and takes his role very seriously. There would be scenes or days where he didn't want anybody. It was just him. There would be days where he'd be like, it's okay to come. There was one day in particular where we flew down and we were on the sidelines. Abhi Jadon from the brand wanted to come to a you know, it's hard to call it a shoot because it's a documentary. It's like there's a set, it's real life, but he wanted to be there. And so we went on the sidelines for a game, but we were there with the parents. Nobody knew who we were. And again, our goal was just to help sell in to the brand the right story. But I think if David was on, he would say that we didn't get in his way. I think we helped him. We're very, very, very sensitive to getting in there in anybody's way.
Another question from the audience that is a good follow-up to what you just said. How do you communicate to the powers that be at PepsiCo that they need to trust the storyteller? I think you touched upon it a little bit, but another audience member is asking to go a little deeper on that point.
Yeah, look, the studio was born from the need to be innovative in how we tell stories. So the ad agencies are extraordinary at telling really, really short stories in a specific way. And filmmakers, especially documentary filmmakers, are extraordinary at telling stories a different way. So the whole mission of the studio is such that if they're going to give us a project, again, why would they not trust us? We also work really closely with them. This is what the filmmakers don't have to see or deal with. We talk behind the scenes about guardrails for the content, what's important to the brand, where should it be distributed, how do we reach their audience. I'll give you an example. Gatorade is not a product that you should drink after you've had a big night out at a party. Yes, it will rehydrate you and it's filled with electrolytes, but that's something where we would say, you know, Gatorade should not be in a pantry in somebody's house. Gatorade should be, if the product is going to be in this film, and it was in it because it's hard to find any sports game, amateur or professional, where you don't see it, right? So it was there, but it has to be as what they call the point of sweat. So that's something where we might have said to David in the edit, or we might have said to Calvin, don't drink this with pizza after the game. It's just not cool. Like, do it, but don't let David film you doing it, right? So that's where we, you know, they trust us because we've proven to be a good partner. And we wouldn't, again, like we wouldn't be there if we didn't want to have all the stars align. Some projects are easier than others, but success for us is doing more. Success for the filmmaker is getting into festivals and elevating stories. Success for MICR, I think, is exposure, experience, the program growing. So we want to be the studio that everybody wants to work with from a filmmaker's perspective. And we want to be where you come to have somebody shine a light on your story because of the impact it can make in people's lives. And that's why I get up in the morning and go to this job. At the moment, I'm going from my bedroom to my living room, but I'm still getting up in the morning going to this job.
So all these things bring us to where we're at today. And it is clear that there's untapped potential to take this organization, these amazing athletes, these amazing humans that are involved in this, to the next level. As I'm saying this, I know that this is going to reach some brands that are pondering what they're going to do next with their branded content strategy and looking for stories. Allie, you're up to bat now, and then Shane, you're next, and then Calvin to help me on this. If there's a brand listening right now and they're intrigued by this, what's the opportunities for them to make an investment for the next chapter in this story and related stories? Allie, you want to take a shot on that?
Yeah, well, everything we've described that MICR does is based on donations. This is a non-for-profit, right? So Shane can tell you specifically, is there a field, is there this, is there that? But this entire initiative is based on brands or companies or foundations coming forward. So all I can tell you is this is a very, very special thing to be a part of, and it's authentic. So, but Shane can speak to like, what do you guys need? What's your source of pain? What's at stake? What's the growth? I mean, we talk about this again, we're on the board. We talk about this all the time. They wanted to make one hire of a MICR alum. I mean, that's expensive. It's not a lot of money as a salary in some contexts, but there's no, the funding comes from corporations and foundations and brands. This is where it comes from.
Coach Shane, what do you need?
Yeah, well, we need a lot. And I would say if there's brands listening that, take wisdom from how dynamic this whole partnership and experience is. And I'm the furthest thing from a marketing professional, but I understand like the millennial consumer cares about social impact almost more than the quality of the product they're buying. So they'll buy the brand that is helping people versus the one that tastes better. I don't know. So invest in people, invest in real stories, because there is so much need out there. And don't just go for the flashy, easy opportunities. Be like Pepsi was, be like Gatorade was, be like Ali was when they got tipped off to this really kind of strange story. Rugby isn't a Gatorade sport. You don't see a lot of that in their typical advertisements. So taking a chance on an offhand story and investing in human beings. So Memphis Inner City Rugby, we're constantly fighting to stay alive. And it just took us years to raise enough money to finally realize the dream that we always had, which was to hire a full-time staff member as an MICR alum. So one of Calvin's former teammates, Jordan Young, was just leading that session that I was mentioning to you. And he is full-time on staff. He is the first ever program coordinator for MICR, and he just graduated college and only 4 years ago graduated from MICR in high school. And so that is a real impact loop. So, we need sustainability. So annual commitments, of cash. We need people to partner with us to spread our story out, introduce us to people. This kind of storytelling does that. Now is the time to invest in young people. If you don't trust your future, you're scared of what's to come. Maybe you don't trust media. You're scared of finances. Invest in young people. That's the solution to everything. Invest in young people because they'll save us at the end of the day. And so if we can serve them in unique, dynamic ways that are meaningful to them, we're all going to benefit as a country, as a world. And so we've benefited from that, and we need to keep going. So we can keep this engine moving.
Excellent. Calvin, a couple of questions for you. Were you born in Memphis?
Yes, sir. Born and raised.
And then do you have other family that's been in Memphis? Is this your family and your grandparents and great-grandparents? Are they citizens of Memphis?
Yes, sir.
So it sounds like a long legacy, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So when we talk about how important it is to you, it's also important to you about what impact it's made on the city that you've grown up in, your parents have grown up in, your great-grandparents have gone in. Talk a little bit of that. You're talking for the folks that are brands who could make a financial investment in this. What does it mean to you, Calvin, that this program continues and it goes beyond how it's helped you? Bring that into context as someone that is a citizen, and many of your family members here with us today, and then those who have passed on, are citizens of Memphis. What that means to the city of Memphis.
Well, the organization obviously means a lot. I mean, we don't have many organizations in Memphis that are giving back to the youth now. I think a lot of them are starting to, decrease. Nobody's able to afford doing so, and some people can't take the mental capacity that it comes with. Memphis is a great city, has a lot of good culture, man, especially for people that look like myself. And it's almost essential that we have the young people teaching the young people, and that we have a system. And that's what MICR is doing. Like I say, like he told you all, rugby is the bottom of the totem pole now. I think we're almost out of the conversation. That is something that we offer. But what we're trying to do is mentor. We're trying to invest in the youth. We're trying to do collabs with the community centers, with not even just rugby, just going to be a father figure for some kids who don't have fathers. But it means everything to me. I think since coming home and seeing how Memphis genuinely is, going back to my neighborhood, seeing how bad it's gotten, crime-wise, and how young the people are that are committing these crimes, is that, like I say, I think it's so far gone that, like Coach Young says, we have to start with the youth. And with our organization, I think we're at a key point now that we have to start branching out. I don't even think that it's an option now that we don't have, our spoons in a couple different bowls, trying to give back and trying to help out. A lot of our students will probably be able to, be teachers. We have a lot of teachers in the school systems, principals in the school system that will now start be able to give jobs, and then maybe they can introduce the sport. They can start mentoring organizations. That's what I want to do long term, start mentoring organizations with a system of us finding youth mentors. I got assigned 2 mentors more recently, and I have one that is about to be a senior in high school, and I have one that just got to high school. So I'm going to mentor both of them, but I'm going to mentor him, and he's also going to be mentoring him. And if you start an ecosystem like that, we have people that are growing and knowing that they have people watching them. It'll make it easier for them to stay on track, and then they'll stay on track. And then hopefully we can have this system. I mean, it's no stopping, you know, the way things are, but it's definitely a way that we can kind of decrease how bad it is. So yeah, I mean, it means a lot to me. And I think Memphis Inner-City Rugby is the epitome of an organization that is doing more than enough to keep the youth, you know, alive and doing well. And more recently, like the superintendent just called off the season for football and all sports or after school activities because of COVID. And now is the perfect position now that the people will have to reform back to, you know, doing things that they did, that they were doing before finding their sport. And so even more now than ever, we're going to need to have somebody reaching out to these kids who now don't have a platform or have a way to or have an outlet or a way to express themselves. So it's going to get pretty bad, but I think it has to get bad before it gets real good. But we're one of the organizations who are helping out. And I think we have a bunch of other organizations that are working with us to do so as well. So, yeah.
Awesome.
For sure.
Well, what I'd like each of the panelists to do is offer their final thoughts, and then we'll bring it back to Drew. And I have a couple more comments to make, but if I could ask Allie, could you give your kind of final thoughts on this for our audience, and then Coach Shane, and then Calvin?
Sure. Look, I'm thrilled to be a part of the brand storytelling community that Rick and Andrew have built, and this piece of content is among a lot of films that brands are making now. The J&J film, there are some beautiful films that brands are making. And so I'm just excited to kind of see how brands continue to shine a light on stories where it's not about them. It's about, it, and they're the facilitator. So I'm just grateful to have the platform to talk about it. And I'm grateful to have met Shane and Calvin and David and have them be a part of my life.
Coach Shane.
Likewise, just so thankful that all these people are a part of my life and wrap their arms around this cause and this city and these student athletes. And thankful for brand storytelling, you, Ty, David, while he's in Africa, for all of their talent and energy and time and investment and travel and trust. I run a charity, so people need to trust that their dollars and cents are spent with dignity and intention and aligned with the mission. And so we appreciate that trust. This was done 4 years ago, and hey, here are all these people who got to be part of it. But you know who actually had to be part of it? It was Calvin. And he was a 16-year-old who had to take the risk of getting his story out there with people he didn't know. Yes, we built trust. Yes, it was a great chemistry, and we're a family now, all of us. But Calvin had to be the most trusting of anybody to let us all in. And from day one of when rugby came to his school to when the cameras came to his door, and now leading the way and being a mentor and taking that all in stride. What a leader that we all got to watch grow, and we still get to watch grow. So just so proud of him and thankful to be associated with a young man like that, and thankful that the story's been told and continues to be told. So just thankful for everybody that tuned in as well. If you want to learn more, you can just check out our social media pages, Memphis Inner-City Rugby, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, just kidding, but those ones. And just have a great night, everybody. And I'll leave it to Calvin.
All right, Calvin, it's up to you to bring it on home here. Let's
I
wrap
have
it
nothing
all
more
up.
to say. I usually hate going behind Coach Young because he's so good at this. But like redundancy, with everything he said, just second that. But the proof is in the pudding. Like if any of y'all want a free trip to come to Memphis, Coach Young is a great host, man. It's happening. It's happening. Like, and if you want to come see it, and if you want before you come invest, just come down. Just come down. The proof is in the pudding. That's all I got.
Awesome. Andrew, are you with us? I believe you are.
Yes, sir.
I think what we'll do is for the folks that are watching right now, we can guide them with a link later for the YouTube video on demand that'll have the film and some probably some of the communication that we had from David, our director, who couldn't join us. We'll have a little segment in there too.
Yeah, we'll be sure to share that with the group. And, if you're just joining us or if you happen to miss a portion of this discussion, we're going to take this discussion, edit it down, and upload it to YouTube. You can check that out tomorrow. We'll make sure that hits your inbox if you're watching this right now. Thank you so much to everybody. Thank you, Allie, for participating and bringing this film to us. Thank you, Ty, for hosting this. And Shane and Calvin, thanks for so much for the work you're doing out there, and wishing you all the best.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
I'm coming to Memphis. I'm just warning you ahead of time.
Come on down.